Today I want to show you a stunning 266k FIA triangle flight, which was done in early June in the Ticino in the southern Alps of Switzerland. You can see it's nice and green down below, and the high ground works quite nicely, has some good clouds above it. So in the first part of this flight there was relatively little wind and conditions were quite good. As you also noticed, you can see that the clouds are just forming above the higher ground. So where the mountains actually go above the tree line, there are some good climbs, and the lower hills are mostly blue because down low it's more stable. So this is in stark contrast to the usual conditions where we fly here in spring, where the lower hills work quite nicely. But apart from that, it's a good flying day. The cumulus stand exactly where they should, produce good lifts, good climbs, and can fly a relatively standard route towards the Monte Rosa, towards the first turn point of this absolutely massive triangle. And here we're coming up to the Val Grande National Parks, and you can see to the left there is no landing options down below, so I always want to stay up high in order to have the possibility to backdrop towards the north where there are plenty of landing options. Now I'm crossing over the big valley of Domodossola, and on the other side it's quite blue. And as I arrive I find some lift, but I do a mistake and I don't climb enough. I just think I can surf this ridge until I'm under the clouds again. But I do get low and I get a bit into the valley wind, and then I have to put quite a bit time down to climb up again. I have to do some soaring, some scratching, some fighting, and it's not so easy, but after some time I actually climb out and I can reconnect with the clouds. So apart from losing some time, it was not any issue. So this puts me back on track towards the journey to the first turn point towards the Monte Rosa Massif. So behind is the Dufourspitze, behind the clouds here, and I fly into this side valley in order to set the turn point as good as possible, as far to the south as possible. And you notice that further to the south it's really cooking, like on the hyperlapse. It's amazing to see how the clouds develop and how they really kind of boil and grow rather quickly. So now I'm flying out on the other side of the valley than which I flew in, because now it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and both sides of the valley work actually quite nicely. And so this puts me back in the position where I fly out of the valley and I fly towards the second turn point of the triangle towards the north. And this is about the time when you start to notice a bit more north wind. So you can see the drift on the ground of the shades of the clouds. They move quite a bit from north to south. And on this day it was forecasted that the wind would get stronger in the afternoon and would also be stronger towards the north where we're actually heading. And at the moment this is not really a big deal. The climbs just are where they should be. They are strong, they are working well. But soon enough I will struggle quite a bit with this wind. But first I'm crossing over the valley of Domodossola here. And it's quite a big valley crossing, but on the other side waits this beautiful ridge which is perfectly west facing. So for the afternoon it's the best orientation that you can have. I thermal up a little bit, but then I just fly straight because it has a good cloud street above it, and the terrain is just awesome to race along, so no need to climb too much. And then I cross back into Switzerland, so this is already good, makes my journey a bit shorter if I would land here. But you can also see that the north wind is now quite a bit stronger, and now begins a bit of a tricky part of the flight. So I have to push against the wind, and every thermal is in a lee side, because of course the thermals are produced in the west or in the south side at this time of the day. And this makes things a bit tricky, so I'm trying to stay high in order to avoid too much flying in the lee, so I can fly more above the lee. And yeah, I have to push against the wind, so this is also a bit tricky. But you can also see that the clouds look still very beautiful, and there are very strong climbs to be had. So here I find another ripper of a climb which brings me back up, and I hope that I can take this altitude and actually cross into the Leventina, the next valley, but it flushes me down on this crossing because I'm in the lee side, and I can climb out on the next ridge in order to fly over into the next valley. So I'm really pushing it a bit here. You can see to the left it's all blue. That's usually a sign that it's flushed over and kills the thermal. But I do find another good climb out of this lee side, and with this I set the second turn point. And now the north wind is tailwind, so the return is easy, but you can also see that the ridgeline is completely flushed over and the clouds are actually forming in the valley. So I fly in the valley with this good tailwind and arrive under this massive big cloud here, and you can see on the hyperlapse how it forms new cumulus underneath it. And yeah, so this puts me in the next position in the Pontironi Valley, and here it's a bit tricky sometimes with the shade, so the thermals are not too strong. So I just climb up enough in order to throw myself into the next valley, which has some good sunny slopes, and I expect a good climb here. But first I don't find any, so I have to fly a bit longer in the valley, and then I find again a ripper of a climb which puts me right back to base. And this is crucial because now I can glide into Italy. And notice the little clouds to the right that form. I'm not sure if they're like kind of rotor clouds, or let me know if you have a better idea. I don't really know where they originate and also why they are super much lower than the cumulus clouds right next to it. So we're getting to the end of this ridge here. So this is Italy. And on the other side, you can really see how the north wind pushes in. The mountains look like they're on fire with the clouds developing above. This looks super cool in the hyperlapse. So I can climb up underneath this kind of inversion layer here in Italy again, and then fly into the Veltlin in order to take the last and third turn point of this triangle. It's quite difficult to fly here. I have some lift. I don't understand the wind system very well. There's very strong valley wind at the bottom, but overall it's climbing a bit everywhere, and I take it. But then when it's climbing everywhere, it also must go down somewhere, and here I really take a flush. You can see how I get flushed towards the valley floor. But then again, I find kind of a strange climb somewhere, and I have reached the maximum of my triangle, and so I try to fly back, but no chance against the valley wind. So I ditched this option and just head for a safe landing. And the valley wind is still quite strong. It's a bit turbulent, so I have to put all my focus together one more time to make it safe to the ground. And after a super long flight, after 266 kilometers through the Alps, I touched down safely. I hope you enjoyed it. I always love to watch these hyperlapse movies, and see you next time.